Greetings. Our special guest on Focus on Eye Health podcast this episode is Eva Potts.
Yes, Christopher, I am. I am the president and co-founder, actually, of Mary Carmel's Light. My brother is also co-founder.
Okay. Now, for our listeners who are not familiar, why don't you tell us a little bit about the organization?
I would love to, Christopher. So, Mary Carmel's Light was founded to empower and support people living with Charles Bonnet Syndrome. For those that don't know what Charles Bonnet Syndrome is, it is a physiological condition that affects people who have low vision or who have lost their sight after having vision. They begin to have silent visual hallucinations. The only explanation is vision loss. There are no other symptoms. These hallucinations are not auditory or tactile. They are simply visual. They can be very simple patterns, such as geometric patterns or different colors, flashes of light. Sometimes for some people, they can be very severe. They can be almost nightmarish. And it begins a very challenging journey because it's associated with vision loss, and we know how challenging the vision loss journey can be. So when Charles Bonnet comes along for the ride, it is more challenging for the individual who's experiencing it.
Okay, very good. And now tell us a little bit about your background, how you came to end up founding this organization.
Well, Christopher, it's actually a sad yet fulfilling story because our mother, Mary Carmel, had Charles Bonnet syndrome for several years. She lost her vision to glaucoma through angular closure, which was a very painful process, but that's not what caused the Charles Bonnet. It was the vision loss. And we had no idea what our mother was dealing with. We had no idea why she was having hallucinations. She unfortunately was given an erroneous diagnosis of dementia, which she did not have, which was later expunged, thank goodness, to a wonderful neurologist in Charlotte, North Carolina, which also improved her mental condition. When she was given that diagnosis, it was very sad because she felt that her memory was being challenged, and it wasn't. So we were left without resources, did not understand how to help our mother, and it was a very helpless feeling, not just for us, but for her, because she didn't understand what she was going through. And quite frankly, she thought, am I losing my mental capabilities? Am I going a little mad? Am I going a little crazy? And the answer is no. If you're experiencing Charles Bonnet, you are not mentally ill. You are not crazy. You are not losing your mind. The best way to explain it is that the eyes are the cameras of the brain. And when the eyes are no longer given the brain visual input, the brain keeps seeking it out, and it puts visual images in front of people whose visual acuity has diminished. The thing is, and what's so specific about it, if you have a vision loss, you know how you normally see something. It can be fuzzy, it can be blurry, it can be just, no peripheral vision. These hallucinations with Charles Bonnet syndrome are 20/20, full view, right in front of the person who's experiencing it. So it's very frightening, it's disturbing. There are many people who are able to cope with it and who are able to understand that these are not real, that they cannot hurt you, that it is your brain compensating for the lack of visual input. But there are many people who feel that either they're regaining their vision or that they have the hallucinations so often that they feel that there's another problem going on with them, and it's harder for them to accept. So we're here to spread information, awareness, and education about Charles Bonnet syndrome for the medical community, the wider public, for people all over, so that they can understand what this is, because it does hold hands with the vision loss journey.
And I thank you for that. I usually try not to inject myself too personally into these things, but I am a person who deals with Charles Bonnet syndrome myself.
Wow.
And when I first underwent vision loss, I had no idea what this was. I had never heard of it. My doctor had never mentioned it. And I did seriously think that I might be losing my mind
Christopher.
until I mentioned it to him and he explained what CBS was. Do you find that there is not much awareness of this syndrome, even in the blind and low vision community?
It's highly unrecognized, it's horribly misdiagnosed, and often the treatments that are afterwards are inappropriate. So I want to congratulate the doctor that was able to explain to you what you were going through, because they cared enough to listen to you and give you feedback. In our support groups, we have heard the most horrific stories about doctors laughing at people, sending them for psychological evals, and it's very sad. And yes, the lack of awareness is overwhelming, Christopher. It's so severe, and I think that we're going to see that change. I hope it's my passion and purpose to make that happen. Vision loss is a tough enough journey all by itself. And when you combine Charles Bonnet Syndrome with it, it tends to impact the quality of life horribly for some people. And what a lot of people don't understand is they think, oh, this is a syndrome. And what a lot of doctors think is, oh, this affects only the 55 and older crowd. And that is a misconception. This affects children, adolescents, adults. Charles Bonnet Syndrome doesn't care how old you are. It does not care what ethnic background you come from. It does not care what socioeconomic status you come from. It doesn't care what gender you are. If you have eyes, Charles Bonnet Syndrome can affect you. And let me give you a staggering statistic. Based on the research in the UK, which is the only country that is actively, well, Australia does some research, but the UK is really on it. They are researching Charles Bonnet Syndrome. God bless Judith Potts and Dr. Fitch and Dr. Lee Jones. I got to give a shout out to them because they are trailblazers. Based on their research, Christopher, 1 out of every 3 people with low vision or who have lost their sight after having vision will experience Charles Bonnet Syndrome.
Wow.
1 out of 3. That's 30% of the population, and the latest statistics that we could find, we're talking about 7 million people in the U.S., 30% of 7 million, okay? That's a big number, and that doesn't even touch the undocumented, the people that we may not know about because they don't have insurance, so those statistics are not being accumulated. We don't know about people that are impoverished, that are not able to reach a doctor. So we're talking about just the number of people that report vision loss. And we know that a lot of people ignore their vision. So this comes on very suddenly. You know, Christopher, you experienced it. It comes on right away or as your visual acuity begins to decline. So some people, let's say you've lost a lot of your visual acuity. Let's say glaucoma. I'll use my mom as an example. She always had challenges with her vision from the time she was a toddler. So we truly think she probably had Charles Bonnet her entire life. She was wearing Coke bottle glasses from the time she was a toddler. And so she would say things here and there as we were growing up, like, do you see that cat over there? And we would look and go, well, no, Mom, I'm not seeing a cat. She goes, oh, it must just be my eyes playing tricks on me. And as we thought about it and we remembered her saying all that, we were like, well, Mom may have had this for a long time. And then when it was getting worse, it was because her visual acuity was dropping. So the CBS became exacerbated. There are many things that can increase Charles Bonnet's intensity: isolation, fevers, UTIs, change in visual acuity. And so it's a very vast subject, Christopher. And I've done presentations where I've had an hour to present and never been able to cover everything that everybody needs to know about it, because it's hard to combine it all into one session because it's a very vast topic. But let me tell you something. I don't know if you know this. You might, since you have lived with Charles Bonnet. It's a 300-year-old diagnosis.
Yes.
300 years old. Come on, give me a break.
I was amazed. I had never heard of it before.
Well, and most people haven't, because it does not have a billing code. That is what we really need. We need a billing code for doctors and ophthalmologists and neurologists and neuro-ophthalmologists that reads Charles Bonnet Syndrome, not visual release phenomenon, because that leaves things open to interpretation, which leaves interpretation of medication administration. We've heard every single medication that's been given to somebody with CBS, and it never rectifies the problem. As a matter of fact, sometimes it does more damage. It increases fall risk. It does damage to the brain that doesn't need to be done.
You mentioned, what a big subject it is and how much information there is to get out to people. So let me go ahead right now and ask you, for any people who are listening who feel that they may be dealing with Charles Bonnet Syndrome, or that if they know somebody who may be going through this, what are the best ways for them to find out more about your organization, to find out more about CBS? What are some good ways to sort of contact you or follow up?
That's a great question, and I'm so happy to let you know that right now, as far as we know, and I check pretty much every day, we are the only nonprofit in the U.S. addressing Charles Bonnet Syndrome. I wish there were more because we need help. You can go to marycarmelslight.com and fill out the contact page, and we will send you information such as a letter to doctors that you can take to all your healthcare professionals, signed by Dr. Gary Cusick, who is our information and education specialist. You can take that letter to any healthcare professional explaining what you are living with and what you're dealing with. We have an information packet that talks about Charles Bonnet Syndrome, some coping mechanisms that can help you learn how to make the hallucinations disappear. They work for some work for others, and some develop their own techniques. And then we also have a brochure that you can look over and hand out to anybody in your family. And that's really important too, Christopher, because not only should people with Charles Bonnet Syndrome, but their families and their caregivers should go to Mary Carmel's Light and check out the information. We have a lot of links to resources that they can go to, journal articles. A very important podcast is done by one of our ambassadors, Shimon Foy. He does the Charles Bonnet Syndrome podcast, which I believe is 56 episodes deep. And it is full of wonderful information. People who live with it, people who care for people who live with Charles Bonnet, doctors, neurologists, neuro-ophthalmologists. I've been on a couple of the episodes myself. It's a great resource for people to learn about what Charles Bonnet Syndrome is. And Shimon has done a great job of making sure it's in a chronological order to understand. So when you start with the first one, it carries you through a series of, what is this? And how can I help the person I love, or how do I help myself? We offer a support group every Saturday from 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time till 2 o'clock. The first hour is dedicated to people who live with Charles Bonnet, and the second hour is dedicated to caregivers and family members so that they can learn coping mechanisms and be a better caregiver for the person that they love, or the person that they care about. They don't actually, some people are in the care field that learn about it because they work in long-term care facilities. So it's a good resource.
Okay, very good. So I think that information is probably going to end up useful to many of our listeners. Outside of that, I think the main thing is just if you had a message overall to deliver to either the overall blind and low vision community, or especially to people who may be dealing with some of these issues right now, what would you say?
I would say do not lose hope. You're not crazy. You are not mentally ill. You have Charles Bonnet Syndrome. I recommend you go to your doctor with a letter off of our website explaining what you have. Go through all the assessments to rule anything else out that might be going on, because in the words of our fearless leader, Eva Potts, two things can be true at once. You can have Charles Bonnet Syndrome and have another diagnosis. Let's eliminate all those other diagnoses. There are assessments out there. You have to be your own advocate. You have to ask for those assessments, get them out of the way, and then Charles Bonnet should be what's left. You may have to deal with both at the same time, but that's okay. Power is knowledge. Knowing what you're dealing with is so important. Don't give up, because there are people out there that care. We are working on research. We are working on getting a billing code. You now have a support system in the US. Don't feel alone anymore. We're here. And we have a helpline too, Christopher. And our helpline is area code 704 389 0160. And whomever answers the phone is somebody who's either cared for somebody with CBS or somebody who lives with it. So you will get somebody on the phone that understands what you're going through.
All right. That, I think, is going to be a very useful resource as well. I want to thank you for the work that you do and for the resources that you bring to the community. This is Eva Potts, the founder of Mary Carmel's Light.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Christopher, and thank you for all that you do and bringing the word about visual impairment to the world, because it needs to be paid attention to. Inclusion should not be an illusion. It needs to happen for everyone. Accessibility and inclusion. Thank you, Christopher.